He can really move. Sonic, he's got an attitude. Sonic, he's the fastest thing alive. He's the fastest thing alive. He's the fastest thing alive.
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation, and our podcast.
And today we are covering one of the 90s animated series of Sonic the Hedgehog, otherwise called Sonic SatAM.
So the series is quite different from the other Adventures version, and it's based on the Archie Sonic comics that are being published at the time. So this one's a much darker take, especially season 2. Mm-hmm. Showcases Sonic and the Freedom Fighters who are fighting against Robotnik to preserve the forest. Heard that before, Sonic Prime.
Yeah.
In a world where he's actually succeeded in taking over, and he is not a joke.
Right.
But
before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, in case you want future podcasts and Robotopolis videos.
Thank you so much for joining us today, subscribing, sharing our videos, commenting. We appreciate everything you do, specials. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So, yes, you know, Rascal told me about this. Because I didn't watch it when it was on.
No. And I never saw it in reruns either. Really, the only Sonic show I had seen as a kid was Sonic X. None of the other ones were forward as reruns, and really
Gotta go fast.
Right. And really not Boom or any other ones they had after. It was just one series. And we had heard about this for years. We knew about the Archie comics, and we didn't know that this particular cartoon was adapting some of those comics into a TV show. Mm-hmm. And from what we heard of fans that grew up with both shows, there are fandoms for both of them at the time when those were the first TV shows they made for the character. And a lot of people seem to gravitate towards this one because of the darker storyline, complexity of the characters, and
it has some similarities to a comic also that we learned.
Right. And a lot of people were more engaged with that, and it fell in line with more of the cartoons that were out at the time.
Mm-hmm. So for those of you, like me, not familiar with Sonic the Hedgehog, SatAM, it was an anime TV series based on Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog video game franchise. It aired 2 seasons with a total of 26 episodes. Actually on ABC, believe it or not.
Really?
From September 1993 to December 1994. And it was produced by DIC Productions, Sega of America, and the Italian studio Robotopolis in association with Telecinco. So it had a lot of irons in the fire.
Right.
It was considered action, adventure, sci-fi, fantasy, comedy, drama.
Well, everything, I guess.
Yeah.
And it really was, because the other one was just all comedy. It was like watching Looney Tunes. This one looks like they wanted to be taken seriously.
Had 3 different directors. The pilot was directed by John Grooves. Season 1 directed by Dick Sebast. And Season 2 directed by Ron Myrick. Mm-hmm. So that was part of the problems with what was going on with storytelling. Mm-hmm. You got 3 different people producing it. And each one probably had their own vision for the show. Mm-hmm. The opening theme song, The Fastest Thing Alive.
Yes. And it seemed like a lot of people really loved the theme and what we hear, and then we heard it. It's different.
Yeah.
It's different from all the other themes. I do like every theme they have for Sonic is different that, exists. Mm-hmm. And it probably was very catchy for the time it came out and very memorable before you had the anime and everything.
Now, clearly they thought they were going to have a Season 3 the way the Season 2 ended, but it was canceled.
Yes.
But a fan following has elevated the series to a cult following.
Yes.
And some original characters of the series later appeared in the 1993 video game Sonic Spinball. And the show also inspired the long-running Sonic the Hedgehog comic book series by Archie Comics.
Right. And we had learned about the Archie comics a while back, mm-hmm. and hearing all these different characters and stories they had. And what we learned, this plus the comics are the same universe basically. We're in an alternate universe from the game. So they basically got to make their own story and lore and world building from it, which had to be exciting, which means all the stuff they couldn't do in the games, they could do in the TV show and the comics.
Sure.
And we were looking forward to this because a lot of people really loved it that grew up with it. And as Mama said, again, such a following that had people try time and time again to get it for a third season. And if Sega or the companies don't do it, There's a fan-made season 3 or movie will be done themselves instead. And this show has 26 episodes altogether, 13 each season. There were 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm. So what is really different about this when I watched it, and it's one thing we mentioned in the beginning, is this Robotnik was not a joke. I thought he was going to be silly, goofy, stupid.
Right, like the other ones.
Right, and like in some of the comics we've read.
Right.
But no, he was meant to be something different, hence where the darkness came from.
Right. And what we explain is the other one is just, he fights Sonic, he keeps getting defeated, and it's like a Looney Tunes style, good guy always beats bad guy type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one, plus the comics, Robotnik has basically succeeded in taking over and roboticizing almost everything. So there's only like these few patches of Earth that haven't been touched by him and his machines, which was very different for the time because they provided a whole different storyline, whole different idea. Instead of him, stopping him from making a plan succeed, it's how do you beat him after he succeeds. So we do like that they were trying something different here. Even if we didn't care for like certain aspects they did with the writing, they still succeeded in making Robotnik a threat. Mm-hmm. You didn't see him as a threat, and nor was there a time where they made him stupid or they toned him down later and changed him completely. He stayed a threat the whole series.
Definitely. And you also learned more about his backstory. His name's Julian. I was just like, ready to pass out when I heard that.
What?
And that his henchman, Snively, is his nephew.
Yeah, like
and
somehow.
it was just, but a lot of this didn't come out until season 2, which I thought
Right.
was interesting. You didn't find any of that out in season 1. So we'll get to the main characters, Sonic and Sally, who I kept telling Rascal, this is not Sonic's show. This is Sally's show. She was in
Poor
every
Sonic.
single episode, and every episode focused on her
Poor Sonic.
and what she wanted to do. They should have just called it Sally.
Then it's like, who? Right? And then you had Tails, who really was just a little kid in here. You had Rotor, you had Bunny Rabbit, and then you had Antoine. And they made up the main cast of the Freedom Virus. They had others, but they didn't matter.
So let's get to Sonic first and how his design was a little different in here.
Yeah. When he was still more round and I guess you could say chubby looking.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, he's chili dog still in here. So, and that's all he eats. So I guess that explains it.
Yeah.
And he still acts like a little bit like the other version you see in there with the Looney Tunes style aesthetic and some of the games where he makes wisecracks and jokes and sees Robotnik himself as not a threat, even though he really is. He doesn't seem to listen to instructions or things. He'll just take care of it fast his own way.
Mm-hmm.
So he sort of had that archetype that was built into the character for a while anyway.
And then Sally let him know he was disillusioned when he thought that he was her boyfriend.
Oh my god! And she said, no!
She kept kissing him and kissing him. And then he said, I'm your boyfriend. And she's like, well, who said that?
Yeah,
and he says, when? And he says, since forever.
Never, like, yes, it's never. It's like, okay, you kiss him on the cheek every episode and in the intro. What else? Where's he supposed to take from that?
And this was season 1. And all of a sudden, she was kissing everybody. And I guess they said, we'll make it clear for you that this is not his girlfriend. Sonic looked stunned. So did we.
What?
I'm like, oh, okay, you run around with no pants on. You're kissing him all the time. But you're not his girlfriend. Okay.
Right.
But that was probably one of the weirdest things that came out of this in season 1.
Right.
And then, as I mentioned, we've got Sally, who is her show
I guess
to
in
me.
charge. And they say she's the leader, but then they say Sonic's the leader. So are they both leaders or one or the other? I don't understand.
So, you had shown me a lot of things about her online in comics and so forth. And here, this was a very tame version of her. We've seen other versions that are more adult-like.
Yeah, and we can't show
So
most
it's
of it.
good that they went the route of toning her down.
Yeah.
But still, why was she the only one in here that had a vest on and no top, or a top not covering her bottom portion?
Yeah.
I know they're animals. I know it's a cartoon. But if you think of all the other animals in here, including the French one, Antoine.
Yeah, he just
He
had,
had a top on, but it covered all the way and just his legs were out. And we kept wondering, well, why doesn't she have on a coat? Or why doesn't she have on like a bustier or something that covers the bottom? She was the only one running around here without any clothes. It was like regular show.
Right. And little did we know that that's a problem a lot of people had at the time. I guess she was fan service before the kids even knew what that was. And as you said, they take full advantage of that in the comics because she gets to the point where it's like, this should not be in a kid's book. So at least it wasn't in the cartoon.
And then what was so weird is in season 1, the last episode, all the animation changed. Her design changed.
Completely,
Sonic's design changed. Her voice actress was different. And we were like, what happened? Are they changing it? And then you get to episode 1 of season 2.
Yeah.
And everything's back to how it was. Like, what was that about?
I don't know either.
If you guys know, let us know in the comments.
Right.
It's weird.
And another thing with the change is that we were kind of on the fence with season 1 because people kept praising how dark and mature and complex it was. We watched it, and aside from like a few episodes, like less than 5, we really weren't seeing that. Like the episodes that involved Uncle Chuck and trying to get him back to normal, or at least to the point he recognized them. Those were good episodes. Mm-hmm. There was one where they found another batch of freedom fighters that were hidden underground. That was actually one of their best episodes until they brought in the love triangle nonsense and just to immediately tore down the tension it built. And we kind of didn't really get into it that much. It wasn't hitting. But then it got to season 2, and it looked like they decided to take away some of the comedy. And we don't mind comedy. Right. We just want it to be good and when it naturally fits into the story and balance it out. Suddenly it was much more serious. There was more story. Mm-hmm. The characters weren't as ridiculous as Antoine because he's just the comic relief the entire time. They explained in a 2-parter how Robotnik took over, which actually was one of their best episodes. Right. And we were just surprised. Like, imagine what it would have been like in season 3 where they just kept improving. Yeah. You could have, Sega still could have had this cartoon running and they were still adapting Archie comics. They could have had their own One Piece or Naruto or something where the show was changing and they had a long-running Sonic show.
And that was the interesting thing. As we said, this inspired the Archie comics. And later on, we were watching a video. Yeah. And we saw certain episodes that had been we thought were taken directly from the comic. Yeah. Now we know that those episodes were put into a comic form. Right. Which is why we're like, oh, that's the same thing. And so they took the show and made comics based on the episodes of the series.
We were surprised.
Yes. And the only time we've seen that done a few times is in anime and manga. Yeah. In the West, they normally don't do that, so that was a real big surprise to learn. Yeah. That the show itself was the basis for the comic series.
And it's thanks to the show that the comics survived for so long because they were going to cancel the Archie comics, and then the cartoon did so well, and they canceled that cartoon, and kids and teens went and flocked to the Archie comics, and sales went through the roof, so they decided not to end it, and that's how it ended up running for so many years. Mm-hmm. It's thanks to the TV show. So it's not like it was a complete mess or anything. It's just it needed to find a balance, and I think it was getting there. Minus the episodes where they had all the comic relief with Antoine, and it was just like so heavy-handed and forced in. It was really breaking up the story, and it wasn't necessary. And if they had just stuck with the storyline stuff and stopping Robotnik, finding the freedom fighters, finding her father, saving Uncle Chuck, it would have all actually been even better for us. And it's a little disappointing to see now that this is all you'll see until the fans themselves finish making season 3 themselves. It's, like we said, it's being made now on YouTube.
If you do decide to do that, let us know and we will cover it on our channel.
Yes, we would love
to watch it and see it. So it's funny you brought Uncle Chuck because that I was thinking about. I was like, oh, it was interesting learning he had an Uncle Chuck. Mm-hmm. And Uncle Chuck had gotten turned by the roboticizer. I think that's how it was pronounced. Yeah. And he was turning people into slaves. And Sonic told him, Uncle Chuck, you can fight it. You can do it. And Uncle Chuck actually was still a robot in body, but he had reclaimed his mind. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
And then he decided to work from the inside and to be a spy for them.
Right.
That was a really interesting part of the story.
Yes. And the other one we found interesting is that they showed how the war started. And it was like one of Mama's favorite animes and mangas, The Wrath of the End.
Mm-hmm.
And they have it where they were actually little kids when the war started and Robotnik took over. Because you kind of see how they act now and say, why is Sonic so reckless? Why do they act like this and they're older? Well, you find out they're not adults. They're actually teenagers. And when it all started as kids, it's implied that their parents were taken away and roboticized as well. So they were basically fighting Robotnik since they were kids, and they had to grow up in a different way, which is why Sonic still kind of is reckless. He does his own thing. Sally is a little more stubborn when it comes to giving orders and things. Tails is still a little kid because he can't help it. He's not the genius in here. And it kind of gave you a different perspective on why these characters acted so much extreme like this. They're still kids and they haven't had an opportunity to grow out of it outside of them having certain episodes of character development.
Yes. So we mentioned there were other characters. So what I kind of would like to do is go through the characters and the voice actors, because the voice actors have also become famous for many reasons.
Yes.
For this particular series.
Yeah.
So of course we'll start with Sonic, voiced by Jaleel White. Did I do that?
Yeah.
And I kept waiting for him to do that. I kept waiting over and over. I waited until the last second of the last episode of season 2, and he never did an Urkel. And I was like, it was such an opportunity missed just one time.
Right.
It
Maybe
would
they
have
did
been
with the
great,
other
but
shows.
they didn't. So Jaleel White voiced him as an adult, but Taj Mari voiced him as his younger self.
Ah, so it actually was someone younger.
Sister's brother, and the one who was in Kim Possible.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So that was interesting. And as you said, he was a freedom fighter, and he kept calling Robotnik.
Yeah, like, I guess that's the funny nickname.
And I like he kept calling Tails Big Guy.
Yes.
And so, as we mentioned, we have Princess Sally, Alicia Acorn.
She gets all these names and
She's
titles.
a princess. Voiced by
Lord.
Kathy Susie as her older self and Lindsay Ridgway as her younger self. And what I thought was interesting is we kept saying, well, is Sonic's name the Hedgehog, his last name?
And in a way, yes. We found out at one point it was Maurice. And I'm like, why? And like, okay, whatever, fine. So Sonic Maurice the Hedgehog. I need to know that. Forget it. Make it the.
Right? And she's a chipmunk, not a squirrel. Sorry, I kept calling her a squirrel.
I thought she was a squirrel all this time.
Sally Squirrel, and I was getting Sandy Squirrel.
Yes,
from SpongeBob.
me inspired the character.
She looks like a squirrel. So that being said, again, it seemed to me like her show, the whole premise and everything, including the freedom fighters and what she was fighting for, was around her.
Technically,
Sonic
yes.
was like a guest star in his own series.
Technically, yes. And sorry if you disagree, but that's what was coming off almost every episode.
You had Bunny Rabbit, good pun, voiced by Christina Cavanaugh. Kathy Susie and Christina Cavanaugh together.
Yes.
And she's a rabbit with a southern accent. Half of her body was roboticized. And you liked her.
Yeah.
You really did like her. To me, she had more sense than Sally. But hey.
All right.
And when we saw her, we said, okay, Horikoshi, we see where you got Miracle from.
Yes.
Because she acted like her. She reminded her. And we've seen so many things where we can see the inspiration for different characters from MHA. And it was definitely Bunny Rabbit, Robot, Rabbit, let me get it right,
Rabbit,
who was the inspiration for Miracle.
Right.
Absolutely positively. Then there was Antoine Depardieu, voiced by Rob Paulson, as his older self, and Katie Lee as his younger self. And it was so weird because, as you said, he was supposed to be the comedic element. And at times he was funny.
Yeah.
But when you got to season 2, it got
annoying,
deprecating, and stupid.
Yeah, and it's like he can't be like this in the comics or else people wouldn't have liked him as much all those years.
And of course he was in love with Sally.
For some reason, we found he's with Bunny in the comics. For some reason, no, he's in a love triangle with Sally and Sonic. Like, why? Why?
And this is also another character we see that inspired one of Horikoshi's characters.
Yes. With I Can't Stop Twinkling.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And everything he did is what he does. Even down to the way his jacket was designed.
Yes.
And then when his stomach out, the navel's out, we're like, that's where the navel laser came from.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating to see how Horikoshi's mind worked when you're watching things. And I'm sure we're not the only ones who have picked up on what has been inspiration.
Right.
Tails, as we mentioned, voiced by Bradley Pierce. And he was a little kid
Very
who wanted to
little
do more, who wanted to be like Sonic, and who wanted to be on the dangerous missions. Sonic didn't want to take him, but Sally said yes.
Like,
so
what?
he got to go.
You're like, wait, I think this is backwards.
And then we had the portable computer Nicole, voiced by, again, Kathy Susie.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Sally's. Again, this was Sally's show. And her dad is the one who gave her Nicole.
Right.
And then Dulcie, voiced by Cree Summer, is a young dragon.
Yeah.
Who's supposed to be the transportation for the freedom fighters.
Yeah, and she just kind of pops up out of nowhere in season 2. She's just in the show. There's no even lead up to it. She just exists.
And she made us think about Spike from MLP.
Yes.
And the dragon from Shrek.
Yes, somehow, yes.
And at first we weren't understanding she was a kid. And then they had an episode, because she kept saying, Mommy this, Mommy that.
Yeah,
and then they had an episode where it showed her backstory. And we're like, oh, she's a little kid like Tail.
Yes. Like, okay, now it makes more sense why she acted like
But
it.
they didn't make that clear.
Right.
And then you have the villains. Ivo Robotnik, voiced by Jim Cummings. Mm-hmm. And again, he's really evil in here. He's not a joke. This is the most serious and the worst that I've ever seen Robotnik. Yes. He was not playing games. And he was not treated like a joke at any time. Snively, the nephew, voiced by Charlie Adler, was the one. He was the serious one, and he was the comic relief for Robotnik. But Robotnik was not a joke.
Right.
And Snively was just...
terrible.
Yes, he was like a terrible character.
He was pre-Starline, basically.
And at the end of season 2, with the cliffhanger, he's like, it's my turn now to be evil. And Robotnik's gone. I'm taking over.
Right.
And you said, oh, we didn't see that coming.
Yeah, pretty much. So you'll never know who's going to be the other antagonist. And people think Metal Sonic was supposed to join.
That would have been good.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even mention Uncle Chuck. So let's go ahead with Cluck. And then SWAT Bots, voiced by Jim Cummings and Frank Walker.
Yes.
The primary henchman. So Uncle Chuck, or Sir Charles Hedgehog, voiced by William Wyndham. And as we mentioned, he's Sonic's uncle and an inventor of the Roboticizer before Robotnik stole it.
Right. And like I said, you see that in the 2-part, I think you say prequel or origin episode. And that was probably one of the most interesting aspects of the show. And you know that they have more family, but you'll never see them, unfortunately. Now, they do free them in the comics. I do remember that. But I think that became the more emotional part of it, because you could see Sonic acted differently when it came to Uncle Chuck than other characters that were there or roboticized. Like, he really wanted him to be free the most.
And he was almost like his dad in the way that the relationship.
Right.
And according to one of the executive producers, Robbie London, he was named after the writer and animator Chuck Minville, who died in 1992.
Okay.
You had Ari Ram, voiced by Victor Love. King Acorn, voiced by Tim Curry, which was a big surprise.
Yeah, seriously.
He was Sally's father.
Yes. So he didn't have that many episodes in here.
Season 2 is when you really got to see the most of him.
Right.
In a flashback episode. And you had Lupe Wolf, voiced by Sherry Belafonte, the leader of the Wolfpack Freedom Fighters. And you had some other people that appeared. We're not going to go through all of them. But those were the main and secondary characters. You had a lot of guest stars, including Michael Bell, Dorian Harewood, Katie Lee, Jason Marsden, Charlie Schlatter, April Winchell. So you had some really big hitters who were extras in this project.
Yes, and that was another fun part of watching the series, to hear who they would have next, or they would possibly reuse to voice other characters. And everyone performed very well. Even when they had the stupid lines and the stupid plots that were forced, they still all did a great job in being the characters. And it would have been fun to see, as the comics change, if this was still going on years or even decades later, who else would they have added to the cast in the animated form? Who have they gotten for the voice actors? Would they gotten big movie celebrities or something? It's more of a lot of what ifs if it had continued. And for what it is, it's not our favorite, but we can see it being more unique and different from all the others.
Definitely.
And you could see why kids or teens would grow attached to the show and want to come back even all these years later.
And knowing that Jaleel White was the first one to voice Sonic in an animated series.
Yes.
And then you told me he also voiced him in the second series.
Yes.
Which is crazy when you think about it.
And then he was in Underground. He voiced all the siblings, too. It's like, how many times?
So I want to quickly go over the episode names because in the first season, except for one, they all had Sonic in them. You had Super Sonic, Sonic Boom, Sonic and Sally, Hooked on Sonics, Ultra Sonic, Sonic's Nightmare, Warp Sonic, Harmonic Sonic, Sonic and the Secret Scrolls, Subsonic, Heads or Tails, Sonic Pass Cool, and Sonic Racer. And season 2, you had Game Guy, Sonic Conversion, No Brainer, Blast to the Past, which was a 2-parter, Fed Up with Antoine, which is the one we were talking about.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous. Ghost Busted, Dulcie, The Void, The Odd Couple, Bobecca, Cry of the Wolf, Druid Hinge, Spyhog, and The Doomsday Project, which was the most serious one.
Yeah.
And it was actually a great way to end the series. It had a really good cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And you really wanted to know what was going to happen next. It was so odd we were watching it knowing there would be no continuation because it really had gotten good by the end of that second season. And as you mentioned earlier, you could see where it probably was going to be even better season 3 than 1 and 2. And had some bigger challenges, and seeing Snively as the villain in place of his uncle would have been interesting.
Right, and seeing who the other mystery villain was supposed to be at the time, too.
Now, Ian Flynn thought that Sonic the Hedgehog's story was too much attention on Princess Sally. Yeah, I agree with you. Giving Sonic the role of Deus Ex Machina to deal with every episode's conflict. He also noted the show's 90s echo awareness. But I said that repeatedly.
So you weren't alone.
It's her show. It's not his show.
Yeah, and I think that was also part of why, well, of course it's a fan base, but it didn't hold on as much as Sonic X or some others where it still has a part of the internet where it's like, oh, this is still being referenced and used all the time outside of Archie comics. It just isn't. And I think that was the problem because you can't use Sally much or anything else unless it's a fan project because of all the mandates and penders. So I think that damaged it. You're watching a Sonic show and it's really
about her. Yeah,
and he's the secondary character. That would probably make someone disinterested whether you're working on it or watching it.
True. And the first season, actually, Rotten Tomatoes, who's rotten, gave it only a 40%.
Really?
And it cited many reasons, which we're not going to get into.
Okay.
I don't think it deserved a 40%. It was
a little
not
higher.
Yes, it wasn't that bad, guys. Sorry, Rotten Tomatoes. And the Sonic co-creator Naoto Oshima later stated that he is a fan of the series and its characters, and that he owns a promotional cell given to him by Deke Entertainment during the show's production.
Oh, that's pretty cool too.
So I'm glad I actually finally got to see it. It took us a while to get to it. It had been in our watch list for a while.
Yeah.
We were watching other Sonic things and we finally got to it. And then we started doing 3 episodes at a time. Sometimes 2, but mostly 3.
Right.
And we got through it. A season 3, I have to say, it deserved a season 3.
Yeah. So we hope that when the fan project is completed, it lives up to maybe what a lot of people wanted at the time it was on and canceled, maybe what newer fans will want to see too.
So if you've seen Sonic SatAM, let us know in the comments below. What did you think of it? Did you watch it when you were a kid, when you were younger? Did you see it much later like me? Mm-hmm. How do you think it compares to other Sonic animated series? And there have been quite a few.
Right.
Let us know what you think. And if you've seen multiple Sonic series, let us know where this ranks for you. If you haven't seen it, we watched it on Tubi or Prime.
Both, because they have it on so many streaming services, on Tubi, Prime, it could be on Peacock, Zumo. There's so many now.
So go to any of those, give it a watch, come back and tell us what you think.
And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates, weekly videos for your anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. Subscribing, sharing our videos, everything you do. As always,
you are special. Thanks so much for watching, Rascal Entertainment.
And Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.